The Chitauri have successfully established 3 new colonies there, Yoon replied. They're requesting permission to begin mining operations on the outer planets. Dr. Songra has already approved the environmental impact studies. Dr. Songra had become head of the Galactic Technology Council, working to ensure that the advanced architect technology was used wisely. She had established strict rules about how the powerful weapons and tools could be shared, always making sure that no single species became too dominant. We guide without controlling, she often said. Protect without dominating. Kim walked to the memorial wall that dominated one side of the chamber. Thousands of names were etched into the black stone, representing all who had died in the war against the Devourers. To the top, in letters of gold, was Li Na's name, along with the words she had spoken before her final mission, "This is our mission now." "Sir, there's a situation developing in the Andromeda sector," reported Lieutenant Osu, now a senior officer responsible for monitoring galactic security. "The Zephyrians are having a territorial dispute with the aquatic builders.
Both sides
Are requesting mediation?" Kim sighed. This was the part of the job he found most challenging. The galaxy was full of different species with different needs, different cultures, different ways of thinking. Keeping peace between them all required constant attention and careful diplomacy. Schedule a meeting with both delegations, he decided. We'll hear both sides and find a solution that works for everyone. As he spoke, Captain Parkman entered the chamber. He was one of the few survivors from the original salvage mission that had started everything. Now he served as the commander of the Guardian Fleet, the military force that protected the galaxy from any threats that might arise. "Kim, we've got a problem," Park said, his expression serious. "Long-range sensors have detected something unusual at the edge of the galaxy. It's not Devourers, but it's definitely not natural." Kim felt his stomach tighten. "Show me." They moved to the main control center, where a large holographic display showed the galaxy in 3 dimensions. At the very edge, a small red dot pulsed. "With an unknown energy signature. It appeared 3 days ago," Park explained. "Whatever it is, it's big. About the size of a small moon, and it's moving toward inhabited space. Could it be another species?" Kim asked. "Maybe," Park replied. "But the energy readings don't match anything in our databases. It could be refugees from another galaxy. Or it could be something else entirely." Kim studied the display, remembering the words of the architect hologram from so long ago. The universe was vast and full of unknowns. Just because they had defeated the Devourers didn't mean there weren't other threats out there. "Prepare a first contact team," he decided. "But keep the Guardian Fleet on standby. We'll approach peacefully, but we'll be ready for anything." As the meeting broke up and people went to their various duties, Kim found himself alone with his thoughts. The galaxy was peaceful now, but it was a peace that required constant vigilance. Every day brought new challenges, new decisions, new responsibilities. He thought about the simple salvage crew he had once been, working the outer rim and worrying about nothing more than finding enough valuable junk to pay their bills. Those days seemed like a lifetime ago, when his biggest concern was whether they could afford fuel for their next trip. "Do you ever miss it?" asked a familiar voice behind him. Kim turned to see Dr. Han Sol, now the head of the Galactic Science Council. She had been studying the architect technology for years, learning its secrets and teaching others how to use it responsibly. "Miss what?" he asked. "The simple life. When we were just salvagers, before we knew about all of this." Kim considered the question carefully. Sometimes he admitted, "But then I think about all the worlds we've saved, all the species that are free to live and grow because we chose to fight. I think about Li Na and all the others who died to protect the galaxy. How can I miss the past when their sacrifice gave us this future?" Han Sol nodded, understanding in her eyes. "The architects chose well. Humanity wasn't ready for this responsibility when they first started watching us, but we grew into it. We're still growing," Kim replied. "Every day we learn something new about what it means to be guardians." As he looked out at the stars, Kim saw ships from dozens of species working together, exploring new worlds, building new civilizations, dreaming of a future that seemed brighter than ever before. The torch that had been passed to humanity was now shared with all the species of the galaxy. The mission that had started with a desperate message from a dying race had become something greater, a promise that life would always find a way to protect itself, to grow, to reach for the stars. The future belonged to all of them. G1 had volunteered for memory experiments specifically to learn how the technology worked. She allowed the aliens to alter her surface memories while keeping her deeper knowledge intact. Each session taught her more about Vorthok neural manipulation, information she carefully recorded in her hidden journals. The aliens' confidence had grown to the point of carelessness. They discussed their plans openly around humans, believing their subjects couldn't understand the implications. They spoke of expanding their research, of creating new experimental conditions, and of eventually relocating humanity to other worlds. For broader studies, Phase 3 will begin next year. Dr. Zilth announced during a staff meeting that G1 was cleaning nearby. We'll separate the subjects into different environments to study their adaptation responses. The breeding program. Results suggest we can enhance their more useful traits through selective pairing. G1's hands trembled as she polished the alien equipment, but she kept her expression neutral. The Vorthok were planning to treat humans like livestock, breeding them for desired characteristics. The thought made her stomach turn, but it also filled her with determination. That night, she made her way to the old subway tunnels, where the Rememberers held their meetings. The group had grown over the years, now including humans from all the preservation zones. They had developed sophisticated communication networks, hidden supply lines, and detailed plans for various scenarios. They're planning something bigger, G1 reported to the assembled group. We need to accelerate our timeline. The knowledge we've gathered, the technology we've learned to build, it's time to use it. The eldest remember a woman named Lee Sun-hee who had been a child during the invasion nodded grimly. 3 generations of preparation. Our grandchildren will either be free or they'll be livestock. There's no middle ground anymore. As the meeting dispersed, Ji-won felt the weight of history on her shoulders. The Vorthok had studied humans for decades, but they had never truly seen them. Soon, that blindness would become their greatest weakness. Dr. Lee Sungmin had been cleaning Vorthok laboratories for 15 years, invisible to the aliens who saw him as nothing more than a maintenance pet. Every day, he mopped floors, emptied waste containers and polished equipment, while the scientists discussed their research as if he weren't there. They never imagined that the quiet human with the simple smile held a doctorate, degrees in quantum physics. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning when Dr. Zilth carelessly left his personal data pad on the workbench. Sungmin was supposed to clean around it, but instead, he quickly connected a small device he had built from salvaged components. The upload took only 30 seconds, but those 30 seconds changed everything. That night, in the hidden chamber, beneath the old subway system, Sungmin stared at the alien data files with growing excitement. The Vorthok technology wasn't magic after all. It was based on principles humans had theorized, but never managed to implement. Quantum entanglement networks, zero-point energy extraction, and neural interface matrices that could read and write directly to organic brain tissue. Look at this, he whispered to Ji-won, and the other rememberers gathered around his makeshift computer. Their barrier systems work by creating quantum disruption fields. But see this frequency here. It's the same wavelength humans use for deep sleep brain patterns. The implications were staggering. Vorthok had built their control systems around human neural frequencies, but they had made a crucial assumption. They believed human brains operated on simple, predictable patterns. They had never considered that humans might be capable of consciously altering their own brainwaves. Over the following weeks, Sunmin worked with a team of hidden scientists to reverse engineer the alien technology. They had to be careful, working only with materials the Vorthok considered harmless. Old electronics, basic metals, and simple chemicals became the building blocks of a revolution. The first successful test came when they managed to create a small device that could interfere with Vorthok sensors. When activated, it made the user invisible to their monitoring equipment for exactly 17 minutes. The aliens' own technology was being turned against them, and they had no idea. We need to test the neural interface theory, Sungmin told his team. If we can hack into their thought-reading devices, we might be able to access their entire network. The opportunity came when G1 volunteered for another round of memory experiments. This time, she carried a microscopic device hidden in her tooth filling, something the Vorthok scanners couldn't detect because it was made from materials they considered biologically inert. As Dr. Zilth attached the neural interface helmet to her head, G1 activated the hidden device. Instead of reading her thoughts, the machine began downloading information directly into her brain. The sensation was overwhelming, like drinking from a fire hose, but she gritted her teeth and endured. The data flow lasted only minutes, but it contained everything: security codes, facility layouts, research databases, and most importantly, the location of the Vorthok command center. When the session ended, G1 stumbled out of the laboratory with the most valuable intelligence in human history burning. In her mind, "They have a weakness," she gasped, as Seungmin helped her to the hidden chamber. "Their entire network runs on a single quantum frequency. If we can disrupt it, even for a few minutes, their whole system will crash." The Rememberers had been planning for this moment for decades. Hidden throughout the preservation zones were caches of equipment, weapons, and supplies. More importantly, they had been secretly training human volunteers in everything from combat techniques to advanced technology operation. But the real breakthrough wasn't technological, it was psychological. The Vorthok had spent so long studying human behavior that they had become predictable themselves. They followed rigid protocols, made decisions based on statistical models, and never deviated from established patterns. Their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. Seungmin began building the device that would change everything. It was deceptively simple, no larger than a briefcase, but it contained technology that would have seemed impossible just months before. The quantum disruptor would send a cascading failure through the Vorthok network, turning their own systems against them. "We'll only have one chance," he warned the assembled leaders. "Once they realize what we've done, they'll adapt their defenses. We need to coordinate strikes on every major facility simultaneously." The plan was audacious. Using the alien communication networks against them, the Rememberers would signal resistance cells across the globe. The moment the quantum disruptor activated, humans would emerge from hiding to seize control of Vorthok facilities, rescue imprisoned humans, and establish secure strongholds. But they needed more than just a technological advantage. They needed something the aliens couldn't predict or counter. That's when G1 proposed the most dangerous part of the plan. "We're going to do something completely irrational," she announced to the stunned group. "We're going to attack their command ship directly, not to destroy it, but to board it. They'll never expect such a suicidal move because it makes no logical sense." The Vorthok had studied human behavior for 3 generations, but they had never truly understood human nature. They saw cooperation, sacrifice, and determination as mere survival instincts. They couldn't comprehend that humans might choose to risk everything for an abstract concept like freedom. As preparations began for the most important day in human history, Seungmin made final adjustments to his device. The quantum disruptor hummed with contained energy, ready to announce to the galaxy that Earth's pets had learned to bite. The Vorthok continued their observations, completely unaware that their test subjects were about to become their teachers in a lesson they would never forget. The resistance had grown beyond anything the Vorthok could have imagined. What started as scattered groups of Rememberers had evolved into a sophisticated network spanning every preservation zone on Earth. They communicated through methods so simple that the aliens dismissed them as meaningless social behavior. Choi Minna crouched in the ventilation shaft above the main Vorthok laboratory, watching the aliens discuss their latest findings. She had been leading reconnaissance missions for 2 years, mapping every facility, learning every guard rotation, and identifying every weakness in their security systems. The aliens never looked up. In their rigid thinking, threats came from predictable directions. The human specimens continued to display increased organizational complexity, Dr. Zilth reported to his superior. However, this appears to be natural. Social evolution. Their activities remain within acceptable parameters for their cognitive limitations. Mina almost smiled. If only they knew that the acceptable activities included a full-scale military operation being planned right beneath their feet. The humans had learned to hide their true intentions behind behaviors the Vorthok found boring or irrelevant. Children playing games were actually practicing tactical maneuvers. Adults tending gardens were maintaining hidden supply caches.
Elderly.
Humans telling stories were passing along detailed intelligence reports. The aliens saw only primitive social bonding where humans were actually conducting the most complex resistance operation in their history, the breakthrough in understanding. Vorthok psychology had come from an unexpected source. The aliens' own research had revealed their weakness. They were incapable of understanding irrational behavior. Their entire civilization was built on logical decision-making and predictable responses. They simply couldn't comprehend actions. That didn't follow statistical probability. Min-Ah had discovered this during her first major operation. She had led a team to rescue humans from a research facility using a plan that made no logical sense. Instead of attacking the most weakly defended entrance, they had charged straight through the main gate during shift change. The Vorthok guards had been so confused by the illogical approach that they had hesitated just long enough for the humans to overwhelm them. Their tactical thinking is fundamentally flawed, she had reported to the resistance leadership. They expect us to act like computers, always choosing the most efficient solution. But humans don't work that way. We can be unpredictable, emotional, and completely irrational when we need to be. This insight had transformed their entire strategy. Instead of trying to outsmart the aliens through superior logic, they began using human intuition, emotion, and creativity as weapons. They launched simultaneous attacks on multiple facilities, not because it was tactically sound, but because the random timing would confuse alien response protocols. The results were spectacular. Vorthok security systems were designed to counter logical threats, not chaotic human behavior. When humans attacked at 3:17 a.m. for no apparent reason, or chose to assault the most heavily defended position instead of the weakest, the alien computers struggled to process the information. We're not just fighting them, Mina explained to a group of new recruits. We're teaching them that they never understood us at all. Every irrational decision we make is a victory, because it proves their entire assessment of humanity was wrong. The resistance had also mastered the art of hiding in plain sight. They had learned to manipulate the Vorthok observation systems, creating false patterns in their behavior that made the aliens see what they expected to see. Mass gatherings were disguised as religious ceremonies. Weapons training became traditional dances. Strategic planning sessions appeared to be social celebrations. The most successful operation had been the liberation of Research Facility 12. Mina had led a team of 30 humans in an attack that defied every principle of military strategy. They had announced their arrival by singing loudly, attacked during broad daylight, and used garden tools as weapons. 8. The Vorthok defenders had been so bewildered by the approach that they had barely offered any resistance. The specimens are displaying increasingly aggressive territorial behavior, the facility commander had reported after the attack. However, their actions lack tactical coherence. This appears to be instinctive pack behavior rather than organized military action. The aliens still couldn't admit that they were facing an intelligent enemy. Even as humans systematically dismantled their operations, the Vorthok continued to classify resistance activities as primitive behavioral responses. Their scientific pride wouldn't allow them to acknowledge that their test subjects had outsmarted them. But the resistance wasn't just about military victories. They had been secretly evacuating humans from the preservation zones, establishing hidden colonies in remote areas where Vorthok sensors couldn't reach. These settlements were growing rapidly, becoming centers of free human civilization. The colonies were marvels of hybrid technology. Humans had combined their reverse-engineered alien systems with traditional human engineering to create something entirely new. They had power sources that the Vorthok couldn't detect, communication systems that operated on frequencies the aliens didn't monitor, and defensive systems that appeared to be natural rock formations. We're not just surviving, Mina told the colony leaders during a secret meeting. We're evolving. We're becoming something the Vorthok never expected us to be. The most important achievement was the preservation of human knowledge and culture. The colonies had become repositories of everything humanity had learned, both before and after the invasion. They had libraries, laboratories, and schools where children could learn about the world their grandparents had known. But time was running out. The Vorthok were finally beginning to understand that their pets were more dangerous than they had realized. Security measures were being increased, experiments were becoming more invasive, and there was talk of relocating humans to other worlds, where they could be studied under more controlled conditions. The Resistance had one chance to strike back. Before it was too late, the quantum disruptor was ready, the attack plans were in place, and human fighters were positioned throughout the globe. Soon, the Vorthok would learn the most important lesson of all: never underestimate the species you're trying to cage. Captain Yoon Jahook stood at the edge of the Vorthok command ship's docking bay, his heart pounding as he watched the massive vessel hover above the ruins of what had once been New York City. The quantum disruptor had worked perfectly. Cross. The globe, alien facilities had gone dark simultaneously, their networks crashing in a cascade of confusion and system failures. The boarding party consisted of 20 humans, each carrying weapons built from reverse-engineered alien technology. They had trained for this moment for months, but nothing could have prepared them for the reality of assaulting a ship the size of a mountain. The plan was insane, which was exactly why it might work. Remember, Jahook whispered into his device, "We're not here to destroy them, we're here to talk. But if they won't listen, we show them what happens when you underestimate humans." Boarding pods launched from hidden positions around the city, small craft that the Vorthok sensors couldn't distinguish from debris. The alien ship's defenses were still offline, their automated systems struggling to understand why their quantum networks had suddenly stopped responding to commands. Inside the command ship, chaos reigned. Dr. Zilth stared at his dark monitors. In complete bewilderment. "This is impossible," he muttered to his assistant. "The specimens lack the cognitive capacity to interfere with our systems. There must be some kind of natural phenomenon affecting our equipment." The Supreme Commander, a towering Vorthok with silver skin that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, studied the reports flowing in from across the planet. Facilities had been attacked simultaneously using tactics that defied all logic. Humans had emerged from hiding places that shouldn't have existed, wielding technology that should have been beyond their understanding. "Sir," a technician reported, "we're detecting multiple small craft approaching the ship. They appear to be ... human in origin." The Supreme Commander's multifaceted eyes widened in disbelief. "Humans in space? That's impossible. They don't have the technology for spaceflight. Our barriers prevent any advanced development." What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had built their craft from Vorthok technology itself, using the very systems designed to contain them. The boarding pods were invisible to alien sensors because they were made from materials the Vorthok considered harmless. Jahook's pod punched through the ship's hull with a sound like thunder. The breach sealed itself automatically, a safety feature that the humans had counted on. As his team spread out through the corridors, they moved with the fluid coordination of a pack. Using tactics that no computer could predict, the ship's security systems tried to respond, but the automated defenses had been designed to counter logical threats. They couldn't process the humans' seemingly random movement patterns. Their willingness to split up and attack from multiple directions simultaneously, or their tendency to choose the most dangerous routes for no apparent reason. "They're inside." The ship reported a panicked Vorthok guard, but their approach makes no sense. "They're moving toward the command center, but they're taking the longest possible route. They're fighting through our strongest defenses instead of avoiding them." The Supreme Commander felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. For the first time in his species' history, they faced an enemy that didn't behave according to predictable patterns. Humans were acting with the chaotic unpredictability of a natural disaster. Jahook's team burst into the command center just as the alien leadership was preparing to evacuate. But instead of opening fire, the captain did something that shocked everyone present. He lowered his weapon and began to speak. "We're not here to kill you," he announced in perfect Vorthok, a language the Resistance had learned by studying their captors. "We're here to give you a choice. You can leave Earth peacefully, or you can face the consequences of what you've done to us." Dr. Zilth stared at the human in complete shock. You ... You can speak our language. You understand our communications. We've been listening to everything you've said for 3 generations, Jahuk replied calmly. Every experiment, every discussion, every plan. You treated us like animals, but we were learning from you the entire time. The Supreme Commander's skin patterns shifted to colors that indicated deep confusion and growing fear. This is impossible. Our psychological assessments showed that humans lack the cognitive capacity for advanced learning. You're supposed to be simple creatures driven by instinct. It's your problem, Jahuk said with a slight smile. You assumed that because we were different, we were inferior. You never considered that we might be intelligent in ways you couldn't understand. Round the ship, similar scenes were playing out as human teams secured critical systems. They weren't destroying anything, but they were making it clear that the Vorthak's control over Earth had ended. The aliens' own technology was being turned against them with a sophistication that shattered their entire understanding of human capabilities. Your species made one crucial mistake, Jahuk continued. You studied our behavior, but you never tried to understand our minds. You saw what you expected to see, not what was actually there. The Supreme Commander's patterns shifted again. This time, 2 colors that showed deep shame and recognition. We ... We were wrong. You're not the primitive creatures we believed you to be. No, Jahuk agreed. We're not. We're the species that learned to survive under your care, to adapt to your systems, and to turn your own technology against you. We're the species that you raised like pets, but who rose as legends. The choice was simple. The Vorthok could leave Earth and never return, taking with them the hard-won knowledge that intelligence comes in many forms. Or they could stay and face a humanity that had learned to fight back. They chose to leave. But not before the Supreme Commander spoke one final time. What will you do now? Will you come after us? Jahuk looked out at the stars through the command center's viewport. We'll do what humans have always done. We'll explore, we'll learn, and we'll make sure that what happened to us never happens. To anyone else, the Vorthok ships departed Earth that day, leaving behind a transformed humanity ready to take their place among the stars. The pets had indeed risen as legends, and the galaxy would never be the same.